I'm here with Nick of Make Them Suffer to talk about their upcoming self-titled record, Make Them Suffer, out November 8th on Sharp Tone Records. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time to join me for a chat. How's things going?
Pleasure. Yeah, really good. We are just playing the waiting game. Album comes out November 8th. So we've just completed 2 years of rigorous touring and writing in the lead up to the record. And this is the first time in 2 years we've been able to have a break and do nothing and take a break from music. So yeah, it's been good.
So let me start off by asking you this. Normally, self-titled records have a special meaning for the band. What is the meaning behind this self-titled record for you?
Oh, well, I mean, it really depends on how much detail we want to get into. Well, I could be here for 3 hours explaining that, honestly. Um, the choice to make the album self-titled was very deliberate. We It felt like we finally felt we finally found our footing as a band after nearly 15 years of being a band. And the story starts really when with Alex joining in 2022. So we suffered dearly over COVID. Touring was our lifeblood. It was our main source of revenue, and without touring, we weren't really able to do anything. So we also went through this sort of volatile period, I want to call it, where we were going through a change in band members again, and it was it was the female member, that we were, I guess, trying to fill the the female presence in our band is something that is always going to make them suffer. Like make them suffer as MTS without the female presence, the female energy, and the band couldn't reach a consensus on whether we wanted to continue on as a four-piece or as a five-piece with a female member. So we had to find that person in a very, very short amount of time. And our search led to Alex, who I'd made friends with over COVID. We we formed a friendship over music. She was another artist in a touring band called Drown the City at the time, and I guess we had I want to call it a serendipitous moment where Alex Alex's band was breaking up, and our band, it felt like at the time we were going to lose 10 years worth of work. So it really felt like at the end of uh, things were at the end for us as a group. So when Alex joined, we went from taking a series of losses to, all of a sudden we were picking up tours again. Doom Switch was our first song, and it was unanimously loved, it seems, by anybody who listened to Make Them Suffer, whether they were old fans or new fans. And it seemed like it took a miracle to keep the band together at that point. Like we were this close. We were this close to breaking up. Like literally the day that we found Alex that morning, um, I woke up being like, yeah, that's over. That's done. And then I bumped into her on the street. And that's when I made the connection, having already made friends with her. I was like, wait a minute, Alex Reed should join Make Them Suffer. So so from there, 2 years of touring, writing music. In between tours, in between the our tour with Parkway Drive in the States in September 2023 and a European tour that we were doing following that, we had 2 weeks, 2 weeks in between, and we used those 2 weeks to record our um, our music. So all our music had been written at home in between tours. And the 2 weeks that we had in Portland, we used to record everything that we'd written. And it was on one of those days, Sean was like, okay, we're going to come up with an album name. And we are coming up with like, different ideas for album titles and such. Um, and then I guess he was just like, hey, why don't we just call it self-titled? And everyone was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Considering everything that we've been put through, we've finally, for the first time in 10 years, everyone in the band is focused on the same goal. We're all looking down the same path. It's something that's been missing. We've always had that missing piece in the band over these past 10 years. And Alex has kind of come in and filled that spot. And for the first time ever, everyone's looking at the same thing. It was only fitting that we'd make the album self-titled.
Either that or name it Alex, but either one or the other would have been a good choice.
That was that was the other choice.
Oh, that was the second choice. Okay, that was plan
Yeah.
B. Plan B. Obviously, she's had an impact on keeping the boat afloat, if you will, and pushing the band beyond these trials and tribulations into what the future will bring. But what was her role then when it came down to putting the music together? Did she have an active role in that?
I wouldn't say she had an active role, but she definitely, look, there's this thing that happens when you collaborate with other artists, right? And they might not be there actively giving their input um, into how you write your music. But there's this funny thing where, someone's presence alone can impact the direction in which I guess her being there made us feel like we are able to be more honest with our music. Like we had the disposal of, she's got a wide vocal range. She's picking up instruments, like she can do all these things. But also her being there let us be like, okay, we can actually make more honest music. Like we can actually express ourselves on our instruments much more and feel comfortable with Alex being there and doing it. So I wouldn't say it was an active role, but she definitely had a sort of a passive kind of her just being there in the room and us feeling confident about who was going to be performing those parts helped us write the music in the direction that it's gone.
Almost like a muse. She was a little bit of a muse for you guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
great analogy.
when I was listening to the album, it's clear that this record emphasizes the diversity that's always been part of the band, but perhaps never as emphasized and as noticeable as it is on this record. At least that's my impression of listening to the album. So when you hear an album like this that really showcases all the different shades of what Make Them Suffer is musically and even vocally. Where do you find the commonality? Where do you find the common thread that allows them to coexist with one another in the context of the record?
Yeah, so this is what I mean by us being able to write an honest record, having Alex being there and letting us be confident in writing the parts that we do. Previously we'd worked with producers, and when you work with a producer who's there from start to finish, helping you write those songs, you're kind of constricted um, to whatever vision they have for the record. And you're setting yourself parameters by doing that. This time, we're able to just um, freely express ourselves musically, and that's why you might feel like you get different types of songs on the record, and you get different shades of Make Them Suffer. It's because we're able to express all the parts that we're about, and Alex has got a big part to do with that.
Yeah, you mentioned before that obviously touring and you couldn't do that in the pandemic, and that's the livelihood of the band. You guys are really a touring band at the end of the day. You play a lot of live shows, you tour all over the place. When you're putting a record like this together and you have that in mind that you want to be honest with yourselves and you want to create an honest sound, how much in the back of your mind are you thinking, well, these songs not only have to work in the studio, but we're going to have to play them live? Is that
It's
part of the
everything.
process?
Yeah, it's everything. So this is part of it. If we want to write an honest record, it's something that we have to enjoy playing. Not to say that we don't enjoy playing some of our old music, but there's definitely a more rewarding feeling about playing something that you wrote, you produced yourself. And when we write, it's also like, well, how is this going to look live? We're not just players. The thing about MTS is we're also performers. Big difference between performing on stage and playing on stage. We're not bedroom guitarists playing on stage. We're there to create a 4D experience, right? Like you're hearing music in the studio or through your headphones. That's your 3D experience. But we're not just there to play a 3D experience, the studio back on large speakers live. We're there to perform it. So we're there to give another dimension to an already existing 3D experience, and that's how that formed the foundation, the writing on this record. So that's when I say we're writing an honest record, like that's encompassed within that. We're thinking about how it's going to look like, how it's going to sound like, performed, everything under that umbrella.
And speaking of honest, there's a song on this record that I feel perhaps is one of the most honest songs you guys have ever written, Small Town Syndrome.
Yeah.
What a way of closing off the record. Really feels like a song. Like people always say, you carry your heart on your sleeve, but I think you guys wearing tank tops when you're playing that song. So your heart is just out there. It's not even on the sleeve. It's just out there. How important is that song for you guys to be on this record?
So Small Town was actually going to be one of our singles, and the only reason we didn't pick it was I think we wanted to showcase some material that you know wouldn't usually fit the MTS formula. But Small Town Syndrome is actually a song about Perth, where we're from. I live in Melbourne now, but I come from Perth. We're technically a Perth-based band, and Perth is geographically the most isolated city in the world. It has its pros and cons, and I think you'd have to ask Sean this. I am not in the department of lyrics. I'm behind all the music and all the instrumentation and stuff. So really, this is a question for Sean. But Small Town Syndrome is, thematically speaking, it's very close to us because it defines our perspective of Perth, where we're from.
It's a beautiful song. I love it. And I think it will resonate with people who also come from a small town, even if it's not Perth, like
That's right.
any small town. So it's one of those songs that the listener is going to make it their own, and it's going to put their own story and their own DNA into it when they're listening to it. Even though it wasn't the single, is it going to be on a future set list?
I hope it is. We've got a lot. I mean, we have to fit a lot of songs in.
Yes, you do.
Sometimes we only play for 35 minutes, and there's a lot of songs we want to play, but yeah, we're hoping Small Town Syndrome. I'd love to be playing that live.
You guys were in North America last year with Parkway Drive. Now you have a new record coming out this year. Does that mean those passports are ready for a future trip to North America?
Yes, I can't give away too many details just yet, but that is definitely on the
All right, the Aussies are coming. That's great.
cards.
We
Yeah.
all gonna put. I know I gotta throw this joke in. We all gonna put our shrimp in the Barbie, and we all gonna be ready for you guys. 'Cause you guys, I really enjoyed what you said about the performance side of things, because I honestly feel like you guys are one of those bands that really understands the difference between both. And when you go to a show, you want to see a performance because to listen to the music, people can do it at home. And I think that's really important. And you're someone who really embodies that spirit. Is it difficult for you to not fuck up a note here and there and still enjoy yourself and be part of that performance?
Yeah, honestly, the playing is the easiest part, because when you're playing these songs day in, day out, and then you're doing like 3-month tours, it's all automatic pilot. and I'm not even thinking or concentrating about the playing part. I am My focus typically is how do I enjoy myself on stage? Is the stage big? No? Okay. What am I going to do to make this good? And a lot of it's to do with the crowd as well, you know. So we can be having actually it's difficult for us to have fun on stage feeling the uh, without feeling the energy from the crowd. So sometimes sometimes we can have really bad nights where we just, I don't know, for some reason, Jordan isn't tight on the drum kit. I mean, he's never not tight on the drum kit, but hypothetically speaking, right? If I'm like messing up parts here and there, it's honestly the least of my concerns. We just concentrate on getting on stage, doing our thing. We typically follow the same formula every night when we're on tour, and we just want to make that 4D experience as good as possible by people see when you're not having a good time on stage, right? Like they can feel it. And a lot of the time, um, a lot of the time, the crowd will sort of give that energy back to you. Sometimes they don't, but that's the only thing we can focus on is just feeling good, feeling good, and having fun while we're up there.
And speaking of having fun, is there a riff? Because this album has a lot of different things, a lot of electronic sound, a lot of great breakdowns, a lot of great riffs. There's a lot to be had on this record. I think it's one of those albums that everybody's going to find something that they're going to love about it, either be musically or vocally. But is there a riff on this record that, like, if you could play it in the shower, that would be your shower riff?
Shower riff, the new one. Um, I think I'd have to say something from Small Town Syndrome, like the verse riff or the breakdown, even in Small Town Syndrome. Either that or maybe the ending, the breakdown, the ending to Doom Switch. They're very, very riffy songs. I'd have to pick those two.
Wow, those are good choices. Both good choices. I have to ask you this because obviously, when we talk about Make Them Suffer or any band that's within the genre, everybody's always like, when I post an album review on the channel, the first question I get is there any good breakdowns? It's always the case. Somebody will want to know about breakdowns. Is
Yeah,
there, are we getting a little bit is there too many, is there such a thing as too many breakdowns?
I think there is such thing as too many breakdowns. It, you'd have to be and it depends how you define breakdown as well. Because I think that we've had music where, we've had songs where we would have breakdowns in them, but we'd see comments from people saying like, "Where's the breakdown?" And in my mind, I was like, "That was the breakdown." Like end of Doom Switch, for example. It might not be your typical. It might not be your typical Jun Jun kind of. Depends how you want to define it. But to me, a breakdown is something that um, it's about the vibe, right? Like it's something heavy and punishing, just something that's heavy. So this record has those types of breakdowns. And if we went any further than that, um, by our standards, we'd probably have too many. So yeah, look, music's an art, and maybe there are bands out there that have their entire album as almost one massive breakdown, and they can pull it off. But I don't think that's something that we'd be able to pull off if we tried. So
And I think it takes away from the eclecticness of the music of this record, an album that has so many different textures, so many things to offer, so many different avenues that you guys can take. Are you getting excited or are you nervous that the date is getting closer and people can be able to finally listen to this whole thing from start to finish?
I haven't been able to reflect on that yet because we've been so busy these past couple of years that I'm only just starting to wind down and not think about music. So the release date, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure if I'm feeling anything yet. But in the lead up, maybe weeks in the lead up to the release, once we start rolling out advertisements and notifications from our socials, I'll probably be able to get a pretty good understanding of it then. But this is our fifth record, and I've been here before, and I can say that every time we've released a record, I've definitely always been nervous because you're putting your heart on the line. We're wearing our hearts in our sleeves, especially with this album, and there's always going to be the fear of what if people don't like it? What if the album fails? What if our careers fail after this? There's always going to be that fear at the back of our minds. So haven't been able to think about it yet, but I'm going to say in the lead up to the album being put out, I'm going to feel pretty anxious.
I was gonna say I don't think you should think about that because that takes a little bit away from the enjoyment of finally seeing the record coming out. I can only imagine
Yeah.
the pressure and how it feels when you put, like you said, your heart into making a record over a long period of time after what you guys went through, after the lineup changes, after everything. It could be one of those things that completely boosts you and takes you to the next level, depending on the feedback or not, or does the opposite. So I cannot even
Mm.
understand what the mindset will be for you guys come November 8th. I don't know. Like I think you guys as an artist, it's such a difficult thing to be involved in, because this is like your baby.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, no doubt we'll be excited. There's definitely a part of it that is going to there's definitely going to be some excitement thrown in with a mix of anxiety. But I think seeing how our other albums have come out and how well they've been received, um, and considering this is a honest record, we personally all believe that it is our best record thematically. Um, I've got high hopes. I've got high hopes. I don't want to use the word excitement because there is some anxiety thrown in there. We are excited, but it's not the type of excitement that it's not a very black and white excitement. Um, but I'm sure when the record comes out, we'll, you know, bear the fruits, see the fruits of our labor, and that's when we'll be really happy.
I can tell you as someone who's heard the record, I don't know, maybe 10 times now. It's first of all, it's a really easy album to listen to. You don't realize the album it's over until it's over. It's just like you put it on play and it doesn't burden you as a listener. You can really easily navigate through it. And Alex's performance, I feel like she brings so much to the table. Like she added so much flavor to this record that also allowed the sound to be what it is. Without her range, without her vocals, I don't think you guys could have sounded this way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know what? We're just getting started. She's, we're only discovering where her potential can be. Like she's only done a handful of tours with us, and we're only just starting to figure out where we can take her ability, both off stage and on stage. So whatever we do in the studio and the things we do in our live performances, like we're just at the beginning of being able to um, harness Alex.
Squeeze that orange to get all the juice that you can. That's the bottom. She doesn't know what she got herself into. Uh,
Yeah.
Nick, thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate talking to you about the record. Once again, Make Them Suffer, self-titled, comes out November 8th on Sharp Tone Records. I hope to see you guys in Toronto next year playing some of these tracks. Small Town Syndrome would be amazing. It has my vote to hit the set list. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing you guys live down the road.
Thanks, Pedro. Thanks for having me. It was good to be here.
Man, my pleasure, my pleasure. And sorry about the early time.
No, no, it's all right.
I owe you a
Um,
coffee
I'm
next time I see you or something, or a drink, a beer, whatever it is that you take.
I'll never say no to coffee or beer, so I'd appreciate
I'll
that.
get you both.
Fantastic.
Take care, man. All the best.
Thanks, Pedro. All the best.